Hello, good evening everybody. You are welcome here in this video. I am going to talk exclusively about Habermas because I promised you Habermas, Lyotard and Baudrillard in this video. As I was talking about postmodernism, and I have given you the idea how it is different and how it is similar to modernism, in what sense it is similar and in what sense it is oppositional to modernism. And also I defined the modernism and its working. So in this video exclusively I'll be talking on Habermas. As you all know that Habermas became famous with the publication of his essay entitled Modernity and Incomplete Project in the year 1980, right? And in this essay he has given a very different kind of an angle, and he says that the period from 1650 to 1750, that is mid 17th to mid 18th century time, can be known as the age of reason, where age of reason means where reason is dominant force. Reason is the supremacy of reason is there, and on the basis of reason things are getting defined and understood. They are in a way of the opinion that this is the time where the old beliefs, old superstitions, old prohibitions and precepts of religious norms are going to be questioned and going to be verified on the basis of reason. So reason and logic, these are the two basic principles on the basis of which they try to solve the problem of society. And they are of the opinion that these two things are very significant, and this age of reason is actually based on the philosophies of Locke, Hume and Kant, German philosopher, and also Voltaire. And their philosophies and their views regarding human intellect and its working is so significant, and it can give us the provisions to come out from the age-old problems, and anything that is given to us by the tradition, we are not going to follow it blindly. The blind adherence to superstitious beliefs of religion and all that, the dark ages views of God and other things, are going to be verified by the reason and by the logic. So that is their main contention, and they are of the opinion that the French Revolution, Habermas is of the opinion that the French Revolution is the test of this Enlightenment thesis. And you all know that what happened in French Revolution, the idea of liberty, equality and fraternity was demanded, and ultimately the the king of France was dethroned, and democracy was established there in France, and people started enjoying their personal freedom and liberty. And that way he is of the opinion that it is a kind of thing that has been the core principle of modernity, because the modern writers like T.S. Eliot and others, T. Hume, Ezra Pound, and the novelists like Virginia Woolf, Henry James, Proust, Kafka, they all have, Stevens, they have tried to extend this thesis in their writing, and they have in a way subscribed the view of enlightenment, and they are nostalgic. They are very deeply wounded for the replacement of the earlier philosophical religious ideals. That is why T.S. Eliot says that Christ died not when he was crucified, but in the 20th century when people abjured, they neglected his ideals. Or at another place he says that come under the red rock, London Bridge is falling, falling, falling. So he is talking of the fragmented values and all that. So these values are somewhere subscribing the Enlightenment thesis. That is the main idea that Habermas is projecting here in this essay, and he is of the opinion that the Enlightenment thinkers had a very deep sort of imprint upon the philosophically. They had a very deep sort of impact upon the 20th century or modernist writers, and somewhere modernism can be seen as a extension of Enlightenment thesis. Okay, and then the cultural movement as modernism subscribed to the project in the sense that it constituted a lament for a lost sense of purpose, lost coherence, and lost system of values. Lost coherence, lost system of values, and lost coherence, lost purpose. T.S. Eliot again and again says that the attitude of the modern man is faulty. They will have to arouse themselves from their inertia, and they should be working for their liberation. They should try to get awakened from their present state, and they should try to take a lesson from the past and try to uplift their problem. That is why he is giving the mythical references, and he says that the problems had been there in the past also, but the people in those times, they tried to improve their situations and they have been successful. Similar thing needed to be done by the modern people, and they can be able to rescue themselves from this state of affairs if they try to make an attempt. So making an attempt and the mechanical working, the sexual perversity, that these are the basic things which T.S. Eliot wants to take up in his The Wasteland, also in his another work, Love Song of J. Alfred Prufrock, or other poems, later poems also. The same spiritual crisis that is there to be found, and the crisis of value that is there pervading in that particular society, he is trying to rebuild those things. So somewhere he is subscribing, he is in a way promoting the ideals set by Enlightenment thinkers, Enlightenment people, that God is great, and homogenizing, attempt of homogenizing of mankind, and Bible is a great text, religion is God and religion, they are the pillars. Faith in God and religion is the pillar of cultural matrix. These are the things that they are doing. So that way Enlightenment thesis and modernism, somewhere they are similar in their philosophical, in their metaphysical, or we can say in their belief, in their system of belief and system of values. And then he is of the opinion that it is in the 1980s the deconstructionists and the critiques like Derrida and Foucault, they have specifically, very strongly and specifically repudiated the principles of Enlightenment, and they have been the main forces against the Enlightenment thesis or the project of modernity. That is why the project of modernity was incomplete somewhere. And he also suggests that in postmodernism, lots of attempts have been made by the thinkers and writers to have a conclusion, but they are hardly able to reach there. So it is better to continue that thesis, that philosophical dimension that was preached and established by Enlightenment movement, and that was also carried forward by the modern thinkers. And that is why he says about Derrida and Foucault that they are new conservatives. It is the habit, if I don't agree with your views, I call you conservative, like the left wing and the right wing. Right wing people call the leftists, the conservative, and the right-wing people do the vice versa. So you can understand, if there is opposition at the level of thinking, at the level of thought process, we start naming them as conservative. So these are things in Habermas. You can easily understand because you have been in the habit of reading literature in the light of these things: abysmal depth, metaphysical, you can say metaphysical beliefs. God is there in the heaven, all is right with the world. This kind of philosophy was there, and God is all powerful. He operates from the heaven and meaning is provided to the universe. This kind of concept was there, but Foucault and Derrida, in the view of Habermas, they are the main forces who have tried to topple down this belief. And then I'll be talking about Lyotard. Lyotard was given a kind of work from the government to present a report on knowledge, and that is why he has written the book Postmodern Condition, a report on knowledge, that was published in 1982. Again it was republished later on 1992 after 10 years, and it was included in many anthologies which were there. So it was first published from Manchester University Press, 1979. Essay answering the question, what is postmodernism? These are the things, and Lyotard first of all opens with a move which, in a slightly oblique manner, he lashes on Habermas, and he says that debate into a struggle to demonstrate the one's opponents, and in a way he says that Habermas is of the opinion that the experimentation that the postmodernists are trying to do, they are continuously experimenting and they are trying to reach some final conclusion, and he wants that experimentation should be stopped. So somewhere the idea that has been given by Habermas is an attack on the attempt of avant-gardist. He is of the opinion that his voice is a singular voice out of the choir. Most of the people are talking about experimentation and innovation and new techniques in literature, and he is the one who is going backward, and he is in a way trying to thwart the attempts of the avant-gardist. Because postmodernism is very close to avant-gardism. Avant-gardist school of people, as I have told you, that they were against the autonomy of art. They wanted to make art humble, and they thought that there should be no distinction between ordinary people and the poets who are writing, and they are also against the divine theory that poets and writers are gifted with divine power, that kind of thing, and they were trying to dismantle the all sorts of privileges, all sorts of special treatment, special attention that was provided to art and artists. So he says that Lyotard is of the opinion that the Enlightenment, whose project Habermas wishes to continue, is simply one of the would-be authoritative, overarching. They are against these things. Any authority must not be there. If everyone is equal, why authority must be there? So authoritative, overarching principle, totalizing principle. Because in Enlightenment thesis, God is the omniscient force, and totalizing principle is beauty. So explanation of things like Christianity is supposed to be the great source of all inspiration, and Marxism and the myth of scientific progress, these are the meta narratives. And Lyotard says that in this postmodern age we are going to replace this meta narrative. We will not subscribe to any such description where overarching principle of totalizing is there, and absolutism is there, universalism is there, idealism is there. So the myth, opposition and plurality, instead of that we will talk of differences, we will talk of opposition, and we will also talk of plurality. Everything must be seen as pluralistic. Plural, where one view is not considered, one view is not taken as ultimate, that is called plural. So postmodernism is plural, fluid, changing, temporary, contingent. So these things are there, and Lyotard is of the opinion that this sense of plurality must be there. Lyotard's famous definition of postmodernism, that is simply incredulity towards meta-narratives. In this time of postmodernism, the meta-narratives are not going to be not going to work, like Christianity, Bible, or any established kind of grand narrative, super narrative will be replaced by mini narrative. Mini narrative, you understand, local, contingent, marginalized kind of tales, stories of common man. Like you see the hero in earlier time, they were coming from royalty, and some king used to be the hero. But in modern time you will find that the common man, like Look Back in Anger, Jimmy Porter is the hero who belongs to a very ordinary position. He is a shopkeeper. So this kind of narrative should be there instead of meta narrative. That is the basic contention of Lyotard. And postmodernity thus deconstructs the basic aim of enlightenment. Basic aim of enlightenment is what? That is the idea of unitary end of history. Enlightenment talks about the homogenizing purpose of history and subject. Another major theorist of another major project the Enlightenment writers they have taken is, this world is human beings have got their forefathers, the biblical myth that is there from Adam and Eve, that is also being challenged, and that way the attempt of Lyotard is to replace meta narrative. He talks of not in a way he talks of replacing the meta narratives and also rejecting the thesis given by Enlightenment movement, which was carried forward by, according to Habermas, by modern writers, and that's it. And after that, Baudrillard is there, and in Baudrillard we will find that he presents, he has written a book, Simulations, in 1981 and translated in 1983. That is the Baudrillardian entry in the postmodernist thinking, and in this book he has given 3-4 stages of reality. Through painting he has tried to make us understand, and he says that he gives the concept of hyper reality. He says that earlier the first stage is that in which the painting is this painting describes the reality. Painting describing the reality, that is the first stage. In the second stage, what happens? The reality that is being represented is wrapped, is distorted. Reality is there, but it is distorted, and somewhere there is a gap between the representation and the reality that is there. And in the fourth stage, in the third stage, the second stage is the sign in the representation, or distorts the reality behind it. And the third stage is about the sign, in that it bears no relation to any reality. In the third stage, the what is represented and what is the reality, there is hardly any connection. And in the fourth stage, what is there? The fourth stage is the hyper real stage, where reality is in a way completely misrepresented. The Baudelairean fourth stage is sign, is that it bears no relation to any reality. In the third one and the fourth one, these are the very important things. In the third one, in the painting and eased with a painter's canvas, it is shown standing alongside a window. So the third one is distortion. The fact is disguised. And in the fourth one, there is no connection of reality and the representation. That is post-truth condition. What is this post-truth condition? Everything depends upon the way you represent something, whether you do it or not. And he gives the example of Gulf War, and he says that the Gulf War never happened. Only it is the footages of the TV videos that we are given to see. So that is a bit too far, taking it too far. He is of the opinion that in the ads, for example, in the ads what we see, projected reality is there, and in the chat show what happens, we can have a virtual reality. The image that we project, the image that we show is not realistic. We are having airy-fairy kind of concept, and we are, for example, the 50-year man or 60-year man projecting himself to be of 30.